Good morning. Good morning. And good morning. How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Running around a little bit in the house here, and I don't know, for some reason I had to put on an overhead light today, so maybe y'all are seeing a little bit better. But your day has started like mine, and I'm hoping it's been one where it's easy. It's an easy day today. Today's Friday. What do we do on Friday? We plan for the weekend. We're looking forward to having a good time, or maybe resting. How many of you just need to rest? Sometimes that's what we need to do. Just chill out, do nothing, request nothing from anybody, and ask them not to request anything of us. Sometimes that's the way you get through your weekend. But for me, I'm going to do a singing engagement tomorrow. Going to be a real quick thing for an hour. I'm going to do some jazz. And if you're in the area, I'm going to do jazz, maybe one or two show tunes and some audience involvement kind of songs. So I'm going to have a little fun with that. Looking forward to it. It's going to be at Everman Grocery and Cafe on 9 Mile Road in Pensacola. So if you're in the area, drop in. It is a membership occasion, and so we're certainly asking people to look at joining. If you live in this area, it's a great way. I'm going to turn off my phone for some reason. It is buzzing here, and I don't want that buzz. That just bothers me. So let me take the sound off. Um, all right, it's off. So it's going to be fun. We're going to have a good time. But today's word is an interesting word to me, and it came up, and the word is neologism. 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 Good morning, Gloria. Hey, Gloria, look. I have on your wonderful piece that you gave me a couple of years ago for my birthday, and I love it. But of course, and I'm mixing it up here because I'm trying to break up some of the yellow and green, and it has a little hue of this brown in this scarf. Can't quite see it, but I am wearing it today, and so I thank you very much, my dear friend. But anyway, today neologism, if you say it real fast, neologism, is an interesting word because it's a word that talks about other words. We live in a society where everything is just going so fast. Technology is pushing it along. Artificial intelligence is pushing it on. In fact, they don't even say artificial intelligence anymore. They just say AI. So in the dictionary nowadays, and they were talking some of the other words that are out there, and I've gone over some of them in our this vlog that I do. Remember, I did Riz not too long ago, maybe 2-3 months ago. I did the word Riz, which means like the new word, instead of using charisma, they just call it Riz. And also Padawan. And Padawan is like this young person that's somewhat naive, inexperienced. Instead of just saying, we used to say in the old days, greenhorn. He came to work for the government. They called him a greenhorn because they didn't know as much, but eventually they would become, knowledgeable and crafty in their area and ultimately run off, and do great things. Another word that they use, and I'm going to probably say these again when more people come in, but goaded. To be goaded is like, like Simone Biles. That's a goat. She's the goat, meaning that basically she's the greatest of all times. Now personally, I've never met anybody that goat. Um, I just haven't. I know that they're good, but personally, I've never met anybody. However, I would acknowledge them as that's the title that they would certainly go under. Then they have a word called, tried to talk about that, refers to the practice of sending text messages to the point where, they're trying to get you to give them information about who you are, what you do, where you come from, your bank account numbers, all that kind of stuff. Will you send them $50 or $150,000 because they love you? That's smashing or smishing. Excuse me, smishing. And then they have this new word which I didn't know about. It's called bussin, bussin. And bussin is really the interesting thing about bussin is that bussin came from the African American community, and it's when somebody comes with everything going on. It says that it means that they're extremely good. Everything is excellent or delicious, meaning in food, or taste is just right in terms of how they look, how they might smell. They say, ooh, they bussin'. Okay, I didn't know that word. Haven't used it either. I gotta admit, I haven't used it. But those are some of the words that it talks about. So, I had read a couple of things that came off of Webster's dictionary as to how they may get new words. Good morning, Adelia. I am planning to attend the Everman's event just to hear you say, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Gloria, if you're available, come on back. We're going to have a good time. I'm going to make it fun. I have a young guy who I've known for a number of years, but he's a student at UWF who's learning classical music now. He already knows jazz, and he knows, obviously, gospel music, which is where I first was introduced to him. So we're going to have some fun. We worked on, we rehearsed Wednesday night, and we're going to rehearse tonight. And then we're going to do what we do on Saturday, tomorrow, to have a good time, to make it where people will feel excited about, wow, we didn't even know she did that. So I'm never going to be a goat. Okay, I'm not going to be a goat, but I can be a collective personality. That's what I'm going to do. Just put me in the collective aisle, the unusual aisle. Good morning, Debbie. Hey, my Deb, how are you? Good to see you in the space. So anyway, that event is on Saturday. So if you're able to be freed up to come, that's at the Everman's on 9 Mile Road. The portion I'm doing is from 1 to 2. But if you want to come by earlier and look at they're going to have food. Now, if you join tomorrow, I'm look my commercial, sorry, in the middle of all this. If you join tomorrow, if you're over a certain age, which they consider the senior, and I don't know the age, I got to admit, it's $8, or students are $8. And then that's a year. That's for a whole year. So you get discounts on vitamins, on some, food specials they're running. And they also, have a cafe, and you can buy wine and beer in that portion of their cafe. And then, of course, they have a hot bar, cold bar. So, consider it. Just consider it. And I think it's $20 for anyone that might be younger than the older age. We'll just put it that way. The more seasoned age, we'll put it like that. But anyway, we're gonna have a good time. Good morning. Good morning. Hi, David. How are you? Good to see you. Love you too. Tell Rhonda, hey, love her. So anyway, this word, which is it's called neologism. Neologism, which is it's NEO. I'm excited now. NEOLOGISM. Neologism. And it is a word that basically it's like a catch-all word. It was placed in Merriam-Webster's dictionary for the purpose of people understanding that new words are going to come that no one even thought about. No one thought that the new words that came, such as the ones I was mentioning, such as Riz, which once again, really talks about charisma, but the younger people came up with it on social media and says, nah, that's the Riz. It's no longer charisma, so they call it Riz. Or they look at other such words as the Padawan. And a Padawan is a young person, a new person that came along, doesn't know as much. The goated, of course, is the one that's out there. They can do it all in one area, such as Simone Biles. Then they have smashing and smishing. It's actually MIS, so it would be smishing. So smishing is looking at getting you to give them information over the internet. Good morning, Erica. How are you? How are you? And then the last one is bussing, and bussing came from the African American community that talks about something. When something is bussing, that means it's all that. It could be that it's the food, it's the dress, it's the style, it's everything understood with one word, bussing. Everything is bussing, everything. So anyway, so these new words are considered to be almost like the lexiconer can go out and say, "Oh my goodness, I heard some words. Let's see how much it's being used out there." And so they look in journals, they look in on social media. So they're looking for these new words that help people understand the significance of words. So it says in Webster's dictionary, it says our graphers monitor a huge range of sources to select which words or definitions to add. And it says Peter Solowowski, editor at large for the Merriam-Webster, it says from academic journals to social media, these give us a very thorough view of the English language. And it's so interesting that young people have a tendency to create words just because they'll shorten them, they'll add stuff to them, they put one word with another word. Next thing, that's where blues, Blur's Day came from, just looking at the fact that it went by. You didn't even know it existed because the routine became so routine, it became a blur, which is the word I did on Wednesday. But anyway, it says the other thing is the one constant of a vibrant living language is change, says Gregory Barlow, and he's the president of Merriam-Webster. He says we continuously encounter new ways of describing the world around us, and the dictionary is the record of those changes. The dictionary. So I used to love the dictionary. That's the only book we had in the house. That's the only book we had in the house. That and I think we had an old Aesop's Fable or Mother Goose kind of book. We only had 3 books in the house. That was it. It was one encyclopedia, one, dictionary, and it was a picture dictionary, but it had the words there too. But it started with the picture. And then, of course, we would have other little things and anything my brothers or sisters left around that were much older than me, I was learning to read. So I had an advanced vocabulary by the time I got to school, to maybe even kindergarten. But anyway, that was the way it was. I was still immature, though. I still immature. So when we get to our word today, and it's neologism. It's hard to say. Neologism. That's how you say it. Neologism. And it says it's a newly coined word of expression. Neologism. It's a new word. It's new expression of a way people think that they look at things. It's going to be the coinage, the newly coined word, the newly made up word. That's what we're looking at when we look at the fact that words change. The words that we use, they may be considered antiquated, old, unnecessary to be used. But I think as we age, we find out that we've aged out of the words that we use, and younger people may not understand them. And then so you have to try to stay up. So I said that's what we're going to do. So when we break this word down, neologism, we're going to talk about the N being the new. The new. It's new to us. Not something we haven't done before. Neologism. There it is, right there. Thanks, Deb. But you have to keep saying it because it runs kind of fast, because most people want to say neo, but it's neologism. But anyway, it's not existing before. It's been a made-up word, introduced or discovered recently or for the first time. It says, or it's already existing, but seen, experienced, or acquired recently, or now for the first time, to make changes to it, to change it up a little bit and make it where people all of a sudden understand what it is and how it can be used, or how some people use it versus the way other people use it. Still having the same meaning, but it's just how they attack it or how they look at it. So when we look at this whole thing, the synonyms for new is obviously it's going to be fresh. It's going to be novel. It's going to be that there's originality to it. It may be brand new to some people because they never heard it before. When you open the dictionary is massive, okay? And you may use Oxford, you may use the Merriam-Webster, you may use just the one just says dictionary online. But anyway, sometimes they don't always have each other's words. Nonetheless, it doesn't say the word doesn't exist because it does. So the word new also talks about being minted, raw, untouched, fashion like, and a new work in progress. Because they say a lot of people will learn how to do new things just because they've tried new words. Let me put on my glasses because I can't see. Okay. Non-traditional, absolutely. Non-traditional. And when I first started working directly for the Department of Defense here in Pensacola, I worked at the non-traditional, agency, the Department of Defense Non-Traditional Education Support, which was Dante's. And everybody would always say, well, where'd you get that word from, non-traditional? That means it wasn't traditional. We were looking outside of the way education could present it, but in a non-traditional way. Thank you very much, Ardelia. When we move on in the word of neologism, we talk about it being English. We're not talking a foreign language, we're talking our language. So it's English. It can be translated into other things, but it's going to be based on language that either Americans people speak or the language of England. And so, or which we were formerly under the British control. So we're looking at Latin, Anglo-Saxon, West Germanic, and also Common Britannic. So those are the words that we're looking at. Basically, stuff that we know, stuff that we've grown up with, stuff that we're used to. We're used to English, I don't know if any of you have a foreign language background where you can also, easily speak fluently in another language. When I used to live in Italy, I was pretty good. I can't do it anymore. I don't have anybody that helps me keep track of that, or I've lost some of it. Some of it I know, but most of it, no. Mm-mm. When we move on in our word of neologism, we talk about it being original. These words are original words or an original approach to words. So in this, it says present or existing from the beginning. It's first or earliest. So meaning even though the word may have started in the early 1900s, if a new person addresses that word and breaks it down and changes it, even though the meaning is the same, but I would say they put some newness to it, then eventually, if it's utilized enough, then it would be picked up by the dictionaries. So the original talks about it being first, sometimes the earliest, the primary word, untouched, meaning it's so new no one else has touched it, or it was touched to change it to make it the newness that it is. And it says that it could be that when something is original, it could be untouched, unedited, uncut, and initial. I think initial plays a good part in when you're talking about new words because they're new to you. So the initial may be when the first time you interacted with it. You didn't know about it, but all of a sudden it's like, where'd this word come from? This is a cool word. And there's sometimes I love words. So I will sometimes try to learn something I never heard before, like Riz. I haven't used it yet, but I think it's a cool word. When I go on in our word of logical is my next word that I come up with. Is it logical? And we may not think so, but guess what? If it gets into those, what I would say, those corporate, understood, widely used internationally and nationally dictionaries, then yes, then it's logical that it's out there. And logic really talks about it being according to the rules of logic and formal agreement. meaning even though we don't understand it, it still exists. An oddity, yes, yes. Sometimes we have to look at things having an oddity to them. They just came about, they showed up, and next thing you know, people are using them. That might even be the latest fad somebody has going on, or you may hear it for a period of time and then not hear it anymore. But logical really talks about it being reasoning, may not be ours, may start with other people. Straightforward, the thinking is just that way of thinking, rational, objective, and sometimes we have to get down to the fact that it's analytical. Somebody thought it necessary to look at the analytics of a word and figure out how can we make this smaller, and cut off it being a long word to a shorter word, but still having the same meaning. They do that. And then it's cerebral. Obviously, it's something that we're thinking about as to how it can be used and using it accordingly. And then it could be the insightfulness of it. Sometimes we're incited by certain words. We're able to get the understanding and pass it on to others. So therefore, the word is more utilized. And I think as young people have a tendency, because I remember I was young once. If a word came out, then I was trying to use it in the different, conversations to make it where more people knew about that word. Or if I didn't know the word, I'd look it up if I could find it. Because, as young people, we also used to at that time, and I'm quite sure they do the same now, they would make up stuff. As I said, they take words and put them together, and it formed two meanings all at one and within one word, which is kind of cool. We move on in our word of neologism. We talk about it being opinion. At some point in time, someone had an opinion about how things were going to be made up. And so it says that's a view or a judgment. And it's formed out of something or someone thinking there was a necessity for someone to have that fact or knowledge. It's just necessary. It meant something to them. And so therefore it said if it would affect their belief, their judgment, their thought, their thinking, their way of thinking. It says their point of view. Because a lot of times if people use certain words, they're letting you know where they stand. Could be in religion, it could be in politics, it could be in romance, it can be in anything. When we look at words, and sometimes one word can sum up the whole thing. Like you can tell somebody you love them, or you could just say love. I just have love. There you go. People can understand that. So it talks about, once again, that there's a belief system, there's an outlook, there's an angle to it. Sometimes there's a slant. When people use certain words, there's a slant on what it is that they mean, but other people understand it. It's a position that they may be taking, or it's a conclusion. The end. Done. Final word. My mother used to say, I'm going to say this one more time. Well, we never want my mother to say things one more time because that meant that she would stop talking. That means she's going to be popping. So we never let her push her nerve that far. We didn't. We really didn't. When we move on in our word, we want to talk about it being germination, which is our G, germination, the beginning of growth. That's when we're really looking at a word changing us, because we've heard it enough where it becomes a part of our form of talk, form of communication. We got it. We understood it. When I first heard the word goat, I said, why are they calling her a goat? My daughter explained. She said, no, Ma, that means that she's the greatest of all time. Who knew? Who knew? I didn't get it at first. I didn't get it, but she knew what it was. In fact, she and I were talking the other day. She said, there's just so many words that are out there that, you all didn't use, but we use. Got it. Social media, the way people look at things is how do you break it down? So the germination talks about the growth of spreading a seed and having it grow, the spore of it, the budding of it. It says, and it's the most seeds and spores that are out there that they occur that form a response. So therefore it's used more often because the watering in this instance, used as a metaphor, the watering has it to grow in usage. And now everybody knows what go is. There you go. And it says it also is the formation of something happening and the understanding of what happened. And it's the fertilization of how it happened. It's the origin, it's the start, because we have to look at sometimes where did it start at. And I don't know, that's like three-peat. I think of some of the sports stuff was really big on bringing in kind of new words that were being used. It's the launch of certain things, the invention, how things are invented, where they come from, how they're done, the initiation. I think everything that comes in may have an initiation period, and then all of a sudden it's like, wow, it's been here a while. That's because people accept it. People accept that change. They accept what occurs. My I in our word of neologism is, it really talks about it being intentional. I think people intentionally mean to cut down on the length of words. They want less words, or they want one word that explains maybe multiple things or dual things. And so that's how it comes up. It says it's done on purpose. They mean, and there's some young people, they can come up with some stuff, and next thing you know, it spreads and spreads and spreads, and ultimately, as they say, it makes it into the dictionary. But it's done on purpose. It is deliberate. It's calculated. There's a consciousness that was planned with it. There is a planning of how it must be done, and they will let you know if you get it wrong. It's intended. It's considered good thing to do. There's willfulness to it. It's purposeful, meaning if you can take one word and therefore with that one word cut out 10 other words, guess what? It works. It works. And then it says it is pre-planned. So when we look at things that are intentional, we understand the significance of them, how they do all of that and make it where all of a sudden everybody understands the meaning. They understand the reason for why it's done. Now my S in neologism neologism, excuse me, is slant. How do we look at things? We look at things very differently. All of us do, but some of us take a real good slant on things. It says, meaning that we intend to make it where we get our angle on it. We're going to give it our own direction, make it understood by a few or by many, but we're going to make it be that this particular word is going to catch on like wildfire. And sometimes it does. Sometimes it does. People all of a sudden know words that they didn't know before. And it says that when something is slanted, that means there's been a direction for it to be going in, a path, so that eventually everyone knows this word. And it may start as just in a clique, in a small group of people, but it grows to other people, because as people talk, they give words to other folks. So ultimately, somebody may say, well, what does that mean? Or they can eventually, if it gets around enough, eventually they can look it up and find it. But I think the internet gave so many people information on understanding they can teach themselves more things than they ever knew before. And they have to be cautious, because I think some people put information out there that's not always truthful. But generally speaking, if it's going to get in something as distinguished as the Webster's or the Oxford dictionaries or Cambridge, you're going to find some words. And they're going to be as accurate as the sources where they came from, the reasonability of it. So anyway, slant talks about it being tilted, that it being crooked, uneven, meaning I got a different angle. I'm not going to come directly with you on this word. I'm going to give it to you in a slant. It's going to be skewed and somewhat distorted from what it originally started as, because I added things to it. I added new information. I added things that made sense to me. So therefore, this is the way I'm going to look at it. And the last word, yay, is it's in the mind. I think the mind of young people they're wonderful, you know, because they can be creative, where we may have become more sedentary and used to the 50,000 word vocabulary that we have, and then we find that young people don't necessarily worry about the 50,000. They're going to worry about the 50,000 plus. Okay, and so they come up with new words. So their minds are looking at the elements of making words important, making words their own, and making words where their conversations may somewhat at first be what I would say coded from us, because we don't maybe understand all of them, but ultimately they work. Ultimately they work. So the mind talks about the element of a person that enables them to be aware of the world. There you go. And their experiences, to think, to feel, and the faculty of consciousness and thought. And that's all of us, you know. I wish I had, you know, spent more time when I was younger to do more with words than what I later on in life found. You know, when I did my dissertation, yeah, I needed words, but that was just to get the dissertation done. But subsequent to that, I've become excited about words. Why? Because it's not like a Friday requirement to have 10 words memorized, only to forget them, the week after. I'm looking at how can I connect the words to my brain to make it where I'm mindful about the words I'm using, but also the words that I'm gaining. And so we talk about the brain, its intelligence, its intellectual powers, the wit of it, because words can be witty, they can be sharp, they can be hurtful, they can be all of those things, but they can also be very witty. And it says they have the power for reasoning, words. And then they have the ability to form perception that you understand. And so to me, words are important, that we would know words. So this word, even though it's new to me, I just talked about new words, but this word is new to me, to think about words that are new in the dictionary. Also have a word in the dictionary that speaks to new words. Neologism. Neologism, it's just a different kind of word, but yet and still it may be on a test, or it may be, have you ever heard of neologism? Eventually you could say, well, yeah, it means words that are new, that we didn't know before, that came about because people decided to put them together as new words, forming new words, forming new ways of communicating. I always wondered if I were ever given the opportunity to live in, say, a village where the language is totally, totally foreign to me. So it wouldn't be like, I've heard German before, and I've heard, Spanish, I've heard French, I've heard, but totally different. Almost like if I were in some place in New Guinea or Africa, or wow, what would I do? And they said most people eventually will learn. If you're forced to learn, you will learn. But if you stay in your silo and you stay kind of just using the same 50,000 words, then you'll never get beyond the 50,000, because you become very accustomed to those words. But anyway, I hope you like this word today. It is a different word, neologism. Who would have thought that word even would have, some usage for it? But I said, well, there's the whole concept of understanding words. So now you know that there's a word for new words. There it is. But anyway, have a wonderful weekend. I hope you enjoy yourself, maybe rest a little bit. For those who are in the area where the hurricanes have touched down and left damage, I'm praying for them. In fact, I'm going to try to go out today. They have a campaign going on where they challenge Rotarians to come with something. So I'm going to try to do that today. But I'm just looking at the fact that we are blessed if that didn't happen to us, and we certainly are in. Hey there, no rest, no rest. Oh, come on, Mike. Get some rest, or have a good time anyway. Just enjoy your weekends, everybody, and every weekend that comes, I try to enjoy a little bit. Try to spend a little time with other people. Need to socialize a little bit, rest a little bit, learn a little bit. All good. You can eat a little bit too, just a little bit. But anyway, have a wonderful weekend. I'll see you soon. And listen, hit the share button and let this message be shared with others. Let them know that Winnie's out here just trying to have a little fun and help people learn a little bit more about themselves and others. Okay, I thank you. Love you. Bye-bye. Have a good weekend. And see you over at Everman's for a live jazz set that I'm going to do tomorrow. Jazz and a little bit of other stuff tomorrow, 1 to 2 on 9 Mile Road. Thank you. Bye-bye.